The great tragedy, dear students, is that most, if not all, antitrust legislation rests on false theoretical notions of competition and monopoly. Antitrust legislation, unfair competition law, is entirely based on the mathematical and incorrect concept of competition, and on the incorrect concept of monopoly. As a result, and this is the great paradox, the entrepreneurs who are the most successful at satisfying consumers' demands are systematically hounded. And they are hounded without truce or quarter. They are not allowed to be successful and to predominate over their competitors. If, as an entrepreneur, you charge more than your competitors, look out. The law recognizes that as a sign of abuse of a dominant position and a sign of monopoly. You are exploiting the consumers. You cannot charge more than your competitors. If you charge more than they do, you are treating the consumers unfairly. Charging less than your competitors is also illegal. It is called unfair competition. You cannot charge less. Selling below cost is against the law. Notice that all the legislation rests on the mathematical view. People think that costs determine prices, and that anyone who sells below cost is an unfair competitor. Charging less than one's competitors is illegal. Then again, charging the same price as one's competitors is also illegal. If you charge the same price as your competitors, you will immediately be accused of collusion, of having conspired with them to sell at the same price. This seems like a parody, but it is not. If you read all of the antitrust legislation, you will come to the conclusion that you are a potential criminal, that there are signs of wicked acts against consumers no matter what you do. If you sell at a higher price than your competitors, it is abuse of a dominant position. If you sell at the same price, collusion. If you sell at a lower price, unfair competition, cutthroat competition, also known as dumping. Now, I'd like to read you a poem, and we will go over it together. It is titled Tom Smith and His Incredible Bread Machine. It goes like this. This is a legend of success and plunder, and a man, Tom Smith, who squelched world hunger. Now Smith, an inventor, had specialized in toys, so people were surprised when they found that he, instead of making toys, was baking bread. The way to make bread, he'd conceived, cost less than people could believe. And not just make it, this device could in addition wrap and slice. The price per loaf, one loaf or many, the minuscule sum of under a penny. Can you imagine what this meant? Can you comprehend the consequent? The first time yet the world well fed, and all because of Tom Smith's bread. It's like when Bill Gates was the hero. A citation from the president for Smith's amazing bread. This and other honors, too, were heaped upon his head. But isn't it a wondrous thing how quickly fame is flown? Smith, the hero of today, tomorrow scarcely known. Yes, the fickle years passed by, Smith was a millionaire. But Smith himself was now forgot, though bread was everywhere. People, asked from where it came, would very seldom know. They would simply eat and ask, was not it always so? We all take for granted that our computer has to work, and Windows too. Was it not always so? We have a right to our personal computer, and to a functioning Windows system. However, Smith cared not a bit, for millions ate his bread. And everything is fine, thought he. I am rich, and they are fed. Everything was fine, he thought. He reckoned not with fate. Note the sequence of events, starting on the date, on which the business tax went up. Then, to a slight extent, the price on every loaf rose too, up to 1 full cent. What's going on? The public cried. He's guilty of pure plunder. He has no right to get so rich on other people's hunger. A prize cartoon depicted Smith with fat and drooping jowls, snatching bread from hungry babes, indifferent to their howls. Well, since the democratic public does come first, it could not be denied that in matters such as this, the public must decide. So antitrust now took a hand. Of course it was appalled. Thank goodness we have the European Commission for Competition and a Directorate General for Competition in Spain and a competition court. So antitrust now took a hand. Of course it was appalled at what it found was going on. The bread trust, it was called. Trust, in English, monopoly. Now this was getting serious, so Smith felt that he must have a friendly interview with the men in antitrust. He visits the government department in charge of defending competition. So hat in hand he went to them. They'd surely been misled. No rule of law had he defied, but then their lawyer said, "The rule of law in complex times has proved itself deficient. We much prefer the rule of men. It's vastly more efficient." Now let me state the present rules, the lawyer then went on. These very simple guidelines you can rely upon. You're gouging on your prices if you charge more than the rest, but it's unfair competition if you think you can charge less. A second point that we would make to help avoid confusion, don't try to charge the same amount. That would be collusion. So one cannot charge more, nor less, nor the same. You must compete, but not too much, for if you do, you see, then the market would be yours, and that's monopoly. Price too high or price too low? Now, which charge did they make? Well, they weren't loath to charging both, with public good at stake. In fact, they went one better. They charged monopoly. No muss, no fuss, oh woe is us. Egad, they charged all three. 5 years in jail, the judge then said. You're lucky it's not worse. Robber barons must be taught. Society comes first. Now bread is baked by government, and as might be expected, everything is well controlled, the public well protected. True, loaves cost $1 each, but our leaders do their best. The selling price is half a cent. Taxes pay the rest. Listen, there is no institution more despicable, hypocritical, and harmful than the entire antitrust structure. The legislation is based on an incorrect and outdated conceptualization of economics. General civil and commercial law contains the only defense competition needs. All special antitrust legislation is comparable to the old legislation in Spain on the Inquisition. Furthermore, the process is very similar. A tip-off invariably sets it in motion, generally from an inefficient competitor. And that is not to mention procedural matters, which cry out to heaven, secret trials, non-existent legal guarantees, convictions based on mere presumption. And it really does work that way. Apart from that, enormous damage is done precisely to the process of competition, on the pretext of defending it. It is shameful that well into the 21st century, these institutions are still in force. And one of the main goals of any lover of freedom and of the market economy is to do away with them. Competition does not need anyone to defend it, especially not the state. The traditional rules of civil and commercial law are all that is necessary.
Civil y mercantil.